Remember when $5 could actually get you a meal? Not just a side of fries or a medium soda, a full, artery-clogging, multi-course experience? Welcome to 2026, the year the American fast food dream officially died. Here's what the industry doesn't want you to know. The FDA logged 296 food recalls in 2024, up 8% from the year before. More importantly, the number of people hospitalized from contaminated food more than doubled. The brands right at the center of that story? You're probably eating at them right now. And it's not just safety, it's economics. In 2026, fast food prices have risen 4% this year alone, while casual dining only rose 2%. For the first time in decades, the price gap between a cheap burger and a real meal has almost vanished. Today, we're naming the 8 worst fast food chains in America right now, the ones that have failed the wallet check, the health check, and the vibe check. And because I don't want you to starve, I'm giving you 4 alternatives that are actually winning the fast food wars. Buckle up. It's time for some grocery uncovered. To understand how we got here, we need to talk about 2 things: the fast food inflation gap and what the FDA's own data tells us about the food these chains are actually serving you. First, economics. In early 2026, industry data shows fast food prices have risen 4% this year alone, while casual dining only rose 2%. The cheap burger advantage that fast food built its empire on is disappearing. They're trapped in what I call the economic death spiral. They raise prices to cover labor costs. Customers leave because it's too expensive, so they raise prices again to make up the revenue difference. It's a snake eating its own tail. Now here's the part the corporate marketing teams really don't want you to see. The FDA regulates roughly 80% of America's food supply. Last year, they logged their highest recall count since 2019. More importantly, the number of people hospitalized from contaminated food more than doubled year over year, and we saw at least 19 confirmed deaths linked to recalled food products. The CDC estimates that foodborne illness affects 48 million Americans every single year, causing 128,000 hospitalizations. In this video, we're judging each brand on 3 metrics. The wallet drain. Is it overpriced for what it is? The gut punch. What does the actual ingredient science look like? And the health record. What does the FDA data say? Let's start with number 1. We have to start with the golden arches. And I'm going to start with a story the mainstream media barely covered. In October 2024, the CDC and FDA launched a multi-state E. coli outbreak investigation tied directly to McDonald's Quarter Pounders. By the time it was over, 104 people in 14 states had been infected. 34 were hospitalized. 1 person, a child, died. The source was traced to slivered onions supplied by a company called Taylor Farms. Now, to be fair, McDonald's responded quickly and removed the affected onions. But here's the question that should stay with you. In a system this large, where your ingredients touch millions of people every single day, Taylor Farms onions also went to KFC and Burger King. One contamination event at a single supplier rippled across the entire industry. Let's talk about the food itself. McDonald's fries are the perfect example of what I call industrial engineering cuisine. Fresh potatoes are sliced, then coated in dextrose, a sugar, to guarantee that perfect golden brown color every single time, regardless of the potato's natural variation. They're treated with sodium acid pyrophosphate to prevent graying during freeze. Then they're par-fried and flash-frozen at a central facility, shipped to stores worldwide. When the restaurant cooks them, they're just finishing a process that started weeks ago. They aren't starting from a potato. They're completing an industrial process. Is this safe? The FDA says yes. Every ingredient has GRAS status. But here's the real question. Is this food? Or is it a food-like substance engineered for craveability, shelf stability, and mass production above everything else? You decide. KFC used to be the Sunday dinner of fast food. 11 herbs and spices, crispy skin, the works. In 2026, it's a brand and identity crisis, and it shares a critical supply chain problem with McDonald's. Remember that Taylor Farms onion recall I mentioned? KFC was on that list too. The same contaminated slivered onions that triggered the McDonald's Quarter Pounder recall were also supplied to KFC locations. This is the 2024 supply chain vulnerability story in a nutshell. One supplier failure hits a dozen brands simultaneously. Beyond that, KFC's core problem in 2026 is consistency. Customer reports and health inspection data tell the same story. The quality lottery. You might get perfectly crispy chicken, Or you might get a bucket where the wings are undercooked inside and burnt outside. In a franchise model spanning thousands of locations, oil temperatures and cook times aren't being maintained consistently. That inconsistency is a health risk, not just a disappointment. Wendy's is in a full store closure spiral, and the numbers are not speculation, they're from the company's own earnings calls. In November 2024, the chain closed 140 U.S. locations. Then in November 2025, interim CEO Ken Cook announced that up to 350 more restaurants would close, beginning immediately and running through 2026. U.S. same-store sales declined 4.7% in the third quarter of 2025. That's not a blip, that's structural decline. Here's why this matters to you as a customer. When a chain closes 5 to 10% of its footprint, the locations that survive are usually the ones that were already below average. The A-team staff has moved on, the equipment is older, the training is thinner. You're not eating at the best Wendy's. You're eating at the one that was cheaper to keep open than to close. Subway built an empire on the word fresh. For years, it worked. But in 2026, that health halo is completely gone. And it started crumbling with a court case in a country 3,000 miles away. In 2020, Ireland's Supreme Court ruled in a tax dispute that Subway's bread could not be classified as a staple food because its sugar content was too high. I need to be precise. This is a tax classification ruling, not an FDA health finding. But what the court confirmed is this. Subway's bread contains sugar equal to 10% of the flour's weight. The Irish legal standard for staple bread, 2%. Subway's bread is 5 times over the threshold. Why does your fresh sandwich bread need that much sugar? Most artisan bakeries use less than 1%. The sugar is there for that famous Subway smell. It's engineered for craveability. That's not fresh. That's industrial. And with footlongs approaching $15 in major cities, you're paying a premium for a product whose fresh identity has been legally challenged on 2 continents. Burger King's problem in 2026 is a combination of infrastructure decay and supply chain exposure. Most locations feel like a time capsule from 1998, and not in a cool way. On the ingredient front, Burger King was also named in connection with the Taylor Farms onion recall in October 2024. They pulled the onions immediately. But again, this is the supply chain vulnerability story of 2024. When your ingredients travel through the same industrial network as every other major chain, you inherit their risks with no extra layer of protection. The Whopper has also been at the center of documented shrinkflation reporting. Consumer advocacy groups and food journalists have cataloged that portion. Sizes across fast food have trended smaller as prices have trended larger. You're paying more for a patty that, by all independent documentation, has gotten drier and smaller than the version on the poster. Pizza Hut is in active crisis. And unlike some of the numbers on this list, the closure figure I'm about to give you was confirmed just days before we filmed this. In February 2026, literally weeks ago, Yum! Brands confirmed on its Q4 earnings call that 250 U.S. Pizza Hut locations will close in the first half of this year. That's roughly 4% of the entire U.S. system gone in 6 months. But here's the bigger story. Yum! Brands has launched a full strategic review of Pizza Hut and is openly considering selling the brand. The company they built may be too broken to fix internally. Domino's, which figured out delivery first a decade ago, has now officially surpassed Pizza Hut as the world's largest pizza chain. Pizza Hut clung to its dine-in identity, the red roof, the salad bar, the endless breadsticks, while the entire industry moved to app-based ordering and 30-minute delivery. The result? A product that doesn't travel well, doughy centers on delivery, and breadsticks that arrive with the structural integrity of a stage prop. When Costco can sell a better pizza at a better price to 30 million members, why Pizza Hut becomes genuinely hard to answer. Long John Silver's is a miracle of survival. It is genuinely the last place in America where you can get a full, retro, greasy seafood experience, and I actually respect the commitment to the bit. But here's what you need to know about the nutrition numbers before you commit. The Center for Science in the Public Interest, the same nonprofit that has petitioned the FDA on multiple food safety issues, named the Long John Silver's Big Catch meal America's deadliest catch. Their analysis, 1,320 calories and nearly 3,700 milligrams of sodium. For context, the American Heart Association recommends a maximum of 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. One meal here gives you 161% of that limit. It also contains 19 grams of saturated fat, nearly matching the entire daily recommended limit in a single sitting. To be accurate, The trans fat content that made headlines a decade ago has been largely addressed following the FDA's 2018 ban on partially hydrogenated oils. But the sodium and saturated fat numbers, those are current, real, and in a single meal. If you're managing blood pressure, cardiovascular health, or just trying to make it to 4 p.m. without feeling like you've been hit by a truck, this one is a choice you need to make with your eyes open. Jack in the Box is the most dramatic cautionary tale on this entire list. And the story isn't really about the food. It's about a company that made a catastrophic financial bet and is now paying for it with the health of their entire operation. In 2022, Jack in the Box acquired Del Taco for $585 million. By December 2025, they sold it for $115 million. That is a loss of nearly $460 million in 3 years. In April 2025, the company suspended its dividend entirely. Same-store sales fell 7.4% in their fourth fiscal quarter of 2025, the second consecutive quarter of more than 7% declines. As of September 2025, the company carries $1.7 billion in outstanding debt, confirmed by SEC filings. When the parent company is in survival mode, trying to service $1.7 billion in debt while closing stores and replacing leadership, the quality control at the midnight drive-thru is not their top priority. You are eating at a brand that is structurally distressed. That's a fact, not an opinion, and you deserve to know it. Now, before I show you where you should be eating, I need to do something that feels counterintuitive. I'm going to defend the villains for 60 seconds, because the full story requires it. These companies are fighting a war on 3 fronts simultaneously. The wage gap. In California alone, the $20 minimum wage for fast food workers nearly doubled labor costs overnight. The commodity crunch. Beef and poultry prices are at historic highs. The consumer squeeze. People are eating out less and chasing deals when they do. If McDonald's didn't use industrial processes and engineered ingredients, a Big Mac would probably cost $25. These brands provide affordable calories to millions of people who have zero other options, often in areas where the Golden Arches is the only food source for miles. That matters. They are genuinely the social infrastructure of American hunger. However, and this is the critical caveat, understanding why they're struggling does not mean you should pay for their mistakes with your health or your wallet. You have options, and those options are genuinely, measurably better. Let me show you. Let's start with the brand that is, right now, doing everything the Filthy Eight are failing at, and doing it while growing fast enough to scare Wall Street about the established players. Here's the ingredient science story. Their menu is built on harissa, tahini, and a Mediterranean protein rotation. Chicken, lamb, falafel, shrimp, that gives you 25 to 35 grams of protein in a bowl format without a gram of industrial filler. Read the ingredient list and you recognize everything on it. No dextrose bath, no sodium acid pyrophosphate. It reads like a recipe, not a chemistry textbook. They've invested in connected kitchen technology that monitors grill temperatures and cook times in real time, the direct opposite of the quality lottery you get at KFC. And while the Filthy Eight are raising prices to cover their operational disasters, Cava has maintained its value position by building a lean, efficient system from the ground up. Chipotle has had its own rough chapters. coli outbreaks in 2015 and 2018 that triggered major FDA investigations and a lawsuit over portion sizes. But here's what matters. They used those crises to fundamentally rebuild their food safety systems. Today, their supply chain protocols are among the most stringent in quick-service food. Every ingredient has a traceable supply chain. Their meats come from farms meeting specific responsibly raised standards. Their ingredient list is genuinely short. If you read it, you recognize everything. No industrial coating, no par-fry process. Whole ingredients, cooked in the restaurant. When you watch them chop your peppers at the counter, that isn't theater. That's the actual supply chain. Taco Bell has done the most to solve the value problem in 2026. Their Luxe Value menu has items at $3 or less. And if you order fresco style, which swaps out cheese and sour cream for fresh pico de gallo, you dramatically change the nutritional profile without changing the price. You're cutting saturated fat and calories while keeping the protein. Honest caveat, Taco Bell is still fast food. Sodium numbers can climb if you're not paying attention. But for the money, the transparency, they publish full nutritional data openly, and the value calculation, it represents the best nutrition per dollar ratio in the entire fast food landscape right now. For 11 consecutive years, Chick-fil-A has topped the American Customer Satisfaction Index for fast food. That's not a coincidence. It's an operational philosophy baked into how they hire, train, and run every location. Here's the nutrition story. Their grilled chicken fillet is marinated and cooked on a dedicated grill, not fried, not reheated from frozen. One fillet, 200 calories, 38 grams of protein, 2.5 grams of fat. That is the single best quick-service protein-to-calorie ratio you can find anywhere in the drive-through landscape. Their chicken supply chain standards are among the highest in the industry. In 2024, they had a packaging error that triggered an allergen alert for wheat-sensitive customers, and they responded immediately and transparently. That response protocol is the difference between a brand with operational integrity and a brand that's just trying to survive until Friday. When things go wrong, how a brand responds tells you everything. Here's what I want you to take from this. The FDA recall data is real. The closure numbers came directly from corporate earnings calls. The financial death spirals are documented in SEC filings. This isn't nostalgia or brand hatred. It's about making an informed decision in a system that is changing faster than the marketing budgets can paper over. The next time you're staring at a drive-thru, ask yourself one question. Am I paying for a value that doesn't exist anymore? Or am I investing in a meal that will actually fuel my day and my decade? Now here's what I want from you. And be specific, because I read every single comment on this channel. Drop the name of the one fast food chain you've quietly stopped visiting in the last year, and the one thing that finally made you quit. Was it the price? A quality drop? A food safety story? A disgusting experience? I want the details. I'm building the next video from your answers. Hit that like button if this was useful. Subscribe so you don't miss what we find next. I'm Marcus, this was Grocery Uncovered, and I'll see you in the next one.